Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from M2YB23 and says, am I the arsehole for not allowing my stepson, 12 male, to live with us? I have 2 boys, 10 male and 5 male. I'm getting married in the next few weeks to my boyfriend, who has a 12-year-old son from a previous relationship. My future husband's son asked his dad if he could come live with us after we get married because he wants to experience a genuine family dynamic with parents and siblings, and given that his biological parents never married anyone else. My husband is on board with this idea, believing it would contribute positively to the boy's personal growth. I expressed to my husband that I have reservations about having him live with us, based on observations during the weekends he spends at our place. Firstly, he appears to have a strained relationship with my younger son. He rarely includes him in activities unless I specifically prompt him to do so. When I ask him to assist the younger boy, such as accompany him to the bathroom, he does so with obvious reluctance. Secondly, he displays an excessive competitive streak towards my older son. He consistently aims to outperform him and even taunts him when he succeeds. I find this overly competitive atmosphere uncomfortable. I desire my children to grow up in a nurturing and supportive environment. The third and most significant concern is his academic and behavioral performance. My boyfriend has informed me that his son has been struggling academically and has faced minor behavioral challenges. I'm concerned about his potential negative influence on my children, particularly my older son. My husband dismisses these concerns as typical for his age, believing that with our guidance, he could improve. I sought advice from my mother and she disagrees with me, asserting that providing a united family environment could greatly benefit my stepson. Both of them label my reasons as unreasonable. Am I the arsehole? Edit. Many people didn't quite catch the bathroom example I provided. Let's say we're at a park. I can't let my 5-year-old go to the bathroom alone, so I might have my stepson accompany him for safety reasons. It's the kind of thing an older child should do for a younger one. And then there was a small update in the same post, which says, I know that I am not the best person, but I never mistreated or ignored my future stepson. I care for him and would never think of hurting him. I realize now that I was being overly protective of my own children and not considering things from my future stepson's perspective. I was afraid that my future stepson might bully my kids. For example, excluding the younger one from activities he enjoys, like building with Legos or teasing the older one when he wins. But now that I can see that if he wants to live with us, it's because he cares about his future siblings. Moreover, as a responsible adult, I understand that I have an obligation to help him with behavior and school grades. I talk to my boyfriend and I accept that he can come live with us. Now I need to move to a new house so that each child can have their own room. And we'll have to work on getting custody. And OP gave some additional information on the stepson's mum and says, unfortunately, my stepson is the result of a one-night relationship, not a marriage. My fiance said he even tried dating or a more serious relationship with her, but she declined. She has always had custody of the boy, and she has never been married. It's just her and the boy. I work remotely, so even though I have work obligations, I'll be the one providing more assistance to the children. I don't see it as a problem, even with one more child. He lives with his mum, who has the full custody. He seeks my fiancé to ask if he can live with us because he wants to have a family with siblings. I don't know his mum very well. I only met her a few times, like in his birthday. And after the update, he said, we're going to talk to him and his mum tonight. I'm going to tell him that our house is his home and he's more than welcome here. We're going to be saying that we're even planning to move to a new house to give him his own room. But it also depends on the conversation with his mum. My fiance thinks we won't have any issues. And the overwhelming vote on this post was voted you're the arsehole, but we'll cover a couple of those comments before we move on to the update just so you can get a flavour of what's going on. So Panda Frank Opinion says you're the arsehole. You're marrying his father, so you should start considering him as your son as well. If your eldest son, 10 male, started displaying all these behaviours, then surely you wouldn't just kick him out and give up on him. Or get your boyfriend on board with ways to deal with the behaviours that you're not happy with. Orange Cubit says you're the arsehole, you're marrying a family. If you can't accept your boyfriend's children into your home, then don't get married. He is not less than your sons. Glitch Pro replies to that and says, and honestly, It's a double you're the arsehole to OP for the reasons given. Those are minor behavioural issues that A, are normal for a kid that age, and B, will likely improve once the kid has some stability in his life. It makes me so sad. All this kid wants is a loving, stable family, and OP is making him out to be a monster. I really hope OP either embraces him as if he were her own son, or calls off the engagement altogether, because anything in between wouldn't be fair to that kid. Cherumum says, "You're the arsehole. Future stepson sounds like a typical 12-year-old. You seem to think he is a free mother's helper for you with your younger child, and that he should treat your older child like he is made of glass. He doesn't need to take your 5-year-old to the bathroom and invite him to play. They have different interests given their 7-year age gap. Your son won't melt or break from competition. And lastly, a lot of kids that age go through some academic and minor behavioural struggles. Your own kids will as well. I will say that if you continue this, your partner should refuse to marry you and should end the relationship. Your kids are not the only kids in your blended family, and they should not be your boyfriend's priority." And one final comment from Proof Replacement, who says, "You're the arsehole. Sounds like you fully expect fiancé to be a father figure to your children, but have no interest in being a mother to his. What would your reaction be if your fiancé didn't want your boys living with you all after marriage? Would it be a deal breaker? Would you consider it? Remembering it's what you're asking from him. You sound like you're digging up reasons, and even what you're scraping up isn't alarming behavior. Most 12-year-old boys aren't interested in playing with 5-year-olds, even biological brothers. But him living there would give them all the opportunity to grow as siblings. And of course, isn't excited to be asked to chaperone a child to the bathroom. Is your 10-year-old? Overall, it seems very selfish and like you want your idea of the perfect family, which doesn't include stepson. You should look for a partner without children." The OP continues in their update. They said, "I initially want to thank the comments that helped me understand that I was in the wrong. I learned that I was being extremely selfish, only looking out for my own children and my fear that they might somehow face bullying at home. But I wasn't considering the feelings of my stepson. I've also learned that the dynamics between siblings, something I never experienced, inevitably involved a bit of competition and rivalry. I was also focused on myself and my kids, that I couldn't see that if he wants to live with us, then obviously he cares about us, especially the idea of having siblings. So I hope we will work together and build a great dynamic in our house." I talked to my fiance, even showed him this Reddit post and told him that I agree our stepson should live with us, but I was wrong about my reservations concerning the boy. He talked to the mother of my stepson, who has legal custody of him. I didn't participate in the conversation, as I understand it's a moment for the biological parents, despite being reluctant after hearing from her own child that he wanted to live with us. She agreed to work out an arrangement where he will spend a significant amount of time with us. My fiancé and boy's mother will still have to discuss the details. After that, my fiancé and I took my stepson out to eat his favourite burger and talked. I told him that we're happy to have him as a new member of our household, that we're going to look for a new house to better accommodate the family now that we're B5, and he can have his own room. He was very happy. We didn't address some concerns that I still have, like the issue of disciplining and following rules. I avoided that topic so it doesn't seem like I'm threatening him to go back to living with his mum. I want him to feel accepted unconditionally in our home. But of course, we'll have that conversation about discipline for the older two soon to prevent any issues, and also emphasize the importance of maintaining good grades in school. P.S. There's no need for anyone here to send me messages cursing me out. I've received dozens of offensive messages and it doesn't help anyone. I've also received supportive messages with advice, and I appreciate those messages. Internet and this community don't need to be a place for hate." So someone asked OP below this. They said, "You need to discuss discipline ASAP to be on the same page." And OP said, "I'm aware of that. This issue has always been one of the key points for me. I always believe that when a child is disciplined by a step-parent, they might perceive it as unfair, which can significantly impact the relationship between the child and the step-parent. However, we've discussed making a list of rules and corresponding consequences for breaking each rule, so I hope that no one feels unjustly treated. If something comes up that isn't on the list, then the discussion will need to be a joint one between me and my fiancé." OP continues and says, "I've always told my fiancé that if my stepson came to live with us, then it would be for the rest of our lives, as my stepson isn't an object that we can return for some reason. I've always had that very clear. Someone said he was always a member of the household. You are the new one." OP says, honestly, I think the issue here is just the choice of words. When I said member of our household, my fiance and my stepson understood that I was referring to him becoming a new resident of the house, as he didn't live here before. Regardless of whether you agree or not, the fact that he lived at his mother's house and in practice was a visitor at ours. Of course, I did everything to make him feel that our house was also his, but there's a difference between living here and spending weekends. I never meant to say that he wasn't part of the family. I've always treated him as a family member. This is part I haven't quite grasped yet. Many people talk as if I treat my stepson poorly. When my husband read the comments on the other post, he told me not to worry because I treat his son very well. I think that it's obvious that if I mistreated him, he wouldn't want to live with me. So where does the idea come from that I treat him poorly? I know that when I said I didn't want him living with us sounds rude, but there is a huge difference between how you treat a kid and what you discuss with your fiancé. Further information on the housing situation, OP said it's still his own house, and OP says I completely agree with this, which is why I mentioned that I did everything to make him feel like the house was his too. There's an aspect I didn't mention, and perhaps it's another reason for my choice of words. My fiancé is moving into the house I live in with my kids, so chronologically, it makes sense for me to refer to it as my house and say that my stepson is a new member of it. Of course, from his perspective, we are the new members of his family. Child's perspective is very different and very insightful, and OP says yes, that's true. The best I can do is treat my stepson the way I treat my own children, and I don't believe there have been any instances where I treated him differently. In fact, I realized I was expecting behaviors from him similar to those of my older son, without considering his different experiences, which made me unfair to him. Someone says, does stepson have his own room / are you spending enough time with him? OP says, this is a very important point. I completely agree that it's crucial for children of divorced parents to understand that they have two homes and to have their personal belongings in both. The thing is, we've been gradually adapting over time. First, I got to know my stepson, then he got to know my kids, and then they started spending more time together, until it got to the point where he practically spends every weekend here, even though legally my fiancé only has custody every other weekend. He always had things at his dad's house, but my house is bigger and my fiancé is moving in here. Unfortunately, my house only has 3 bedrooms, mine and one for each child, so he was left without his own space. When he comes over, he has to sleep in my older son's room, so in reality, he's been kind of like a visitor, you know. That's the reason I'm looking for another house. I want to give him his own space, just like my kids have theirs. Yes, I understand that my stepson isn't in the best situation right now. We were already looking to move to a new house after getting married, regardless of whether he would come to live with us or not, precisely because of this issue. But we were both planning to sell our houses to buy a new one, so it would take several months. Now we'll be renting in the next few weeks, since we're already exploring the real estate market. We already know of a house that we like. Then clarifying the bathroom example above, OP says, I never used him as free childcare. I was unfortunate in the example I gave about the bathroom, but I'll explain again what happens. We have a young child who's 5 years old. I can't expect a 5-year-old to behave in a mature / appropriate manner at all times, but I can expect the older ones, aged 10 and 12, to understand that the 5-year-old is a little child who doesn't yet grasp various situations. So for instance, if the older two are playing video games for an hour without letting the little one join in, it's obvious they need to stop and let the little one play a bit too. Otherwise the little one will feel sad and angry, think that his siblings don't like him and so on. I'm not asking them to play with the little one all the time, but to look at the situation from the little one's perspective so as to not hurt him. In the bathroom situation I mentioned last time, it was just me, my stepson and my youngest son. When my youngest son is with any of the boys, he refuses to go to the bathroom with me. That day, he was practically on the verge of tears not to go with me and wanted to go with his brother. So in my view, my stepson, upon seeing the boy almost in tears over a trivial situation, should have understood he should help to prevent him from actually crying, but he only helped after I insisted a lot. Anyway, I believe my stepson will grasp this dynamic soon, just like my older son already does. And someone says, you need to adjust your expectations. And there was mixed comments on this one as well. Some people thinking that the comments were being a bit too harsh on OP. Other people saying, you know, she's still not quite grasping that the 12-year-old and the 5-year-old won't have that much in common, etc. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Equal Budget 3179 and says, am I the arsehole for charging my friends rent and keeping the money for myself? This will be my first year in college. When I got accepted, the first person I told was my uncle. We're very close because he took care of me when I was little because of my parents' crazy work schedules. Anyway, my grades were good enough to get me in, but not enough to get me any scholarships. That means I'll have to take out loans for tuition and work for my expenses. When my uncle found out, he said that I should just concentrate on school instead of working, but my dad, his brother, said that money is tight right now, so my parents can't help me out as much as they want to. My uncle has investment properties all over the place, so he said it's not a big deal for him to buy another one near my campus, which he did. And he had contractors renovate the house, so everything in there is brand new. He even had them install a bay window in the master bedroom just for me, and I got to pick out everything else like the carpet and counters. He told me he wants me to concentrate on school and not work. Instead, I can be his landlady and rent out the other 3 bedrooms and keep that money to fund my expenses. I have a group of friends who are all attending the same school, so I made a deal with them. Studio apartments are going between $900 to $1,500, not including utilities, around the campus, with the expensive ones being closer. My uncle's house is 1 street over from campus, so I can literally walk to class every day. I'm charging my friends $700 per room, or if they double up, $350 per person per month, and split utilities evenly. They all jumped at the offer and no one asked any questions until recently when one of them asked me how much the overall rent was. I was honest and told them about my uncle and our deal. That blew up in my face because now every one of my friends are calling me greedy for charging them rent and pocketing the money. We're all in a huge fight and they all want to either pay nothing or throw a couple of hundred in for utilities. I cried to my uncle, but he said, now that I'm an adult, I need to make my own adult decision. Just stand by my decision. I don't want to lose my friends, but I don't want to disappoint my family with bad grades either. I thought I was being fair with rent, but literally all of my friends are calling me a greedy arsehole. Ditto says, you're not the arsehole. They're getting a great deal, but instead of focusing on that, they're seething with envy. Your uncle didn't buy and renovate that home so that your jealous friends could have a free place to live. He invested in that home so you could have a place to stay and an income while you're in school. Don't back down, OP. Your friends are not entitled to a free roof over their heads just because you have one. OK Appointment says you're the arsehole. You should have been upfront from the start. This has revealed to them a weird dynamic that makes them feel like you're only friends with them to make money off of them. Yes, they're getting a good deal. No, you wouldn't have had to been upfront if you recruited strangers, but these are and were your friends. You should have let them decide to live with you, knowing where their money is going. They thought it was going to some anonymous landlord and instead is going to someone who doesn't even invest in the house. It's honestly so slimy that your uncle's gift to you is your friend's debt. If they knew all that from the start and then suddenly they have an issue with it, you wouldn't be an arsehole at all. Mummy Spinach says these comments are awful and why I hate capitalism. Rent is usually high because mortgage rates are high. OP isn't paying a mortgage, she's just being greedy. ETA, I'm not saying don't charge them, but using market value as an excuse to charge such an extortionate amount when there is no mortgage to pay is greedy and is only fueling the problem of the housing crisis. This is an ethical and philosophical issue. I guess the question OP needs to ask herself is, do I agree with such high rental prices that force my friends to work extra shifts during college so I can earn $2,100 a month by doing nothing? Relationship Surveyor replies that and says each friend was getting a $600 a month discount. How was she charging too much? I literally now cannot find a place for less than double that price, let alone one that's nicely and newly renovated. This is no different than if the uncle were directly given her $2,100 per month. She just has to manage the property for him, and he's teaching his niece how to do that. I live in a small city in Canada and the prices around the university here are like $700 would be a steal for that. Just because someone is your friend does not entitle you to free stuff. $700 was wildly generous and now she's getting $1,300 instead. Those entitled former friends of hers screwed themselves out of a gravy deal. Next commenter says not the arsehole, you are not required to house people for free. If they continue to object to that, to which they agreed, evict them. And in the future use the old boomer, oh, I don't like to discuss money. And B Glasses says fuck that, you're the arsehole. You should have been honest from the start since they're supposedly your friends. Instead you decided to fully embrace being a landlord and got greedy and saw them as a source of income, not friends. I got seriously surprised they're upset. You've been lying to them for months about where their money goes. Edit after your Reddit. Holy fuck, you're the arsehole. You literally made these people homeless and didn't even bat an eye. You said yourself, there's no houses nearby. What do they do for school now? You might have screwed over their entire college career with this move if they can't find anywhere to live that they can afford. I can't stress this enough how scummy this is. So as you might have guessed, there's a little update to this which we'll get into straight away, which says, thank you for reading my post and giving me advice. I went to my uncle, this time without crying, and told him some of the advice given on here and asked him for his advice. This time he didn't tell me to make my own adult decisions and told me he was waiting for this conversation. This is what we agreed to do. I text all of my friends, or former friends, and told them because of the arguments and hurt feelings, we can no longer live together. My uncle offered to work out a lease for me in the beginning, but I refused because these were my friends. Because no one signed a lease, we didn't have to break any. I was worried about them suing my uncle, but my uncle said that the law in our state requires anything to do with real estate to be in writing. Unlike other situations, real estate deals cannot be oral, so I'm good. This time I took him up on the offer of creating a lease for me to have new tenants sign. We spent the morning researching rent prices and making ads. My friends and I made the agreement at the beginning of summer. Now there's only a couple of weeks left until school starts. We found almost nothing within 3 miles of campus. There were some options further out, but nothing was cheaper than $1,200 for a shared room that was in an old house with window AC units and 5 miles from campus. When the house was being renovated, my uncle had central air and heating installed. We came to a rent price of $1,300 and placed ads in several places including Facebook. Within an hour I got a dozen messages. It's 4 PM now and I literally have over 100 messages. Many of them don't even need to see the house in person. Based off of the pictures and location, they want to submit their application today. Some even offered to send me the deposit, and one person said her dad will pay me the full semester amount today. My uncle gave me some advice. That was exactly what you guys said. Never mix money with friends or I might lose both. And never tell anybody my business. He told me not to lie, just keep quiet. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, you wonderful people. Ooh, dearie me. Now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you feel about that? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.